Hit the record button and we get started. Afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to Variety Sports Network. This is episode 18. Can you believe it? Episode 18 of Football from Across the Pond. December chills are setting in the UK. December chills are setting in the NFL. I'm joined by the motley crew here of Craig, Johnny, and Sam. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing okay, yeah.
Very well,
I love it. I'm loving the headwear there, Johnny. I'm loving the fact that you're giving away
you've
gifts.
got to get the old Santa hat on. So,
as you said just before we jumped on, the Giants' defense has been giving away plenty of presents in the last couple of weeks, anyway.
Oh well, yeah. Devontae Smith touchdown was certainly a present, like, but yeah. So no, no, yeah. The defense is leaking a bit, so I thought I'd get the Santa hat on before the Sunday game.
Yeah, Sam, things are on suddenly the upswell. There's a sudden feel good.
Factor
around so far.
Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
We'll wait till Tuesday night and see what happens then.
So you're not jumping fully on board just yet, then?
I'm to be honest, I'm not really at all on the Baker train yet. If he gets us a win next week even, then I'll be on the Baker train until the end of the year. But that's about as far as it'll be going.
You're not buying the full ticket then, you're just buying the single, not the full season ticket. Fair enough. And Craigie, how are you guys feeling coming off a bye? You're looking forward to getting Jordan Love as your starter this week?
But I don't think he will be. Unfortunately, you know, it's there's a little bit of hope left in it, you know. But what does make me laugh, you can't help but think, you know, when the TV executives were looking at this week and they were thinking, right, what games, you know, start the season, what game are we going to have? The Super Bowl champions and the Packers at home, what a game that'll be. Have to take it. We'll have that one first and foremost. They're cussing that now, aren't they?
I bet they're really chuffed about that. I mean, this week, you know, might be the first week since week one where there may be a reasonably decent Thursday night football game, but they may also be a complete blowout one-sided because, you know, we're looking good and it looks like Seattle are on the downward slope. And I think the Niners are just going to go in there and just run all over them pretty much. Not going to give Brock Purdy too much to do. Just kind of here's Christian McCaffrey, here's Jordan Mason. You're going to get a lot of that Seattle. See if you can stop the run. And the last 4 weeks they've been totally incapable of stopping the run. Sam, even you guys ran against the Seattle.
Yes, we I think was the
Cam Akers return, wasn't it?
The second of 3 weeks where we just somehow managed to produce over 100 yards in rushing yards, which I think it may even be
maybe your highest yards ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine we've ever had, apart from maybe back when we had Todd Gurley, I don't think we've had 3 weeks in a row where we've reached over 100 yards rushing. So I don't know. I think, and the thing is, it's all come from running backs. So
actual running backs, not
actual running backs, and it's not from the one running back I think probably every single Rams fan thought we'd have. So, you know, it's
the joys of the NFL.
Yeah, it's been a fun season, hasn't it?
It's been a roller coaster season for the Rams. You know, after coming off such a high to be in such a position, you should say injuries have completely decimated you, but also it seems like the curse of the Super Bowl hangover may have kind of bitten quite hard. And I know a number of your key players have been out, but even when they haven't been, there doesn't seem to have been that, you know, swagger maybe with the Rams this year. I don't know if you feel the same.
It's been, I think, to be honest, it's been totally as soon as that O-line started, you know, we were losing linemen left, right, and center. Stafford couldn't have a swag. He wasn't given the ability to have a swag, and that just fed through the whole team. I think I may have mentioned this before. A lot of Rams fans are wanting Jalen Ramsey to get traded because he's been toasted probably by most of the top players this year. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are calling for him to be sold. Obviously, I think Donald's maybe hasn't been as effective. I don't know. Like I say, it might be a case of that they've now won that Super Bowl. Is there
the motivation there?
Is there that sort of drive to go and get another one? But I think at the same time, I think if you would speak probably to a lot of the Rams players, they'd probably be saying, well, that's not the case. It's just been a bad year. Sometimes it can be, you just have a bad year.
I mean, the Rams are not the only team to be having bad years. I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that there just seems to be a lot of bad football around at the moment. Even though we're now week 15, you'd think the teams would have knocked the rust off and be clicking, but even now you still see mistakes happen. You still see teams that, they're still saying we haven't quite gelled yet, and you're like, you've got 3 weeks left of the season. If you're not gelled now, you're never going to gel.
I mean, look at the Bucs and Brady. I mean, the fact that you absolutely destroyed them last week, and I think they only scored, was it one touchdown?
7. I think they got one touchdown in the garbage time, third, fourth quarter or something, when they were up against the second string. Yeah.
And you just think, these were players. I mean, it's Tom Brady. He knows Godwin. He knows Julio Jones. He knows Evans. Mm-hmm. Like, it isn't like he's playing with brand new rookie wide receivers. He's playing with, arguably elite, well-known.
It's certainly a good receiving core, isn't it? If you put those 3 names, you'd be like.
But these are the same receivers that got him his last ring. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, interesting enough with that. I mean, they were rubbish. They were bad against us.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be bad all year. We kind of showed it to how bad they were. Rookie quarterback, first official start going against Tom Brady. Smashed them out of the park for 2 quarters, 28-0 at half time or something, or whatever it was, and basically didn't bother in the second half. The Bucs are still winning the NFC South. It's like you
were that comfortable. You were able to bring on your 4th string quarterback to basically just do.
Who we just called up from the practice squad of Denver the week before. He's not even been in a building more than a week, and we're like, this is done all. I mean. And it was also
it worked for It worked for Mayfield.
Yeah, he flew in, picked up the playbook as it's such, and I think we said that, didn't we? You didn't even read the playbook. I think by the time he actually did that drive towards the end, it was just go out and do more stuff. So Craig, let's have a look at your division.
I mean, for me, it's an end of an. It's at this moment in time, it's the end of an era in the NFL. So. The era of, kind of Drew Brees is gone already. Both the Mannings have gone already. But, there was kind of an era, and Ryan's on his way out. He's done. He's not got an arm anymore. Rodgers is on his way out. Brady's on his way out. I think this year is the proper end of the era of those quarterbacks, and we're coming into the kind of newer era now. And we've just been a part of that, unfortunately. It's been an uphill struggle all year long. You could see it from the start. You could see that Rodgers, just with the rookie the receivers that he had nobody, and you could tell right from the get-go that he knew he
didn't have his comfort blanket with him, did he? He didn't have his comfort blanket of Adams there, and he was just expecting to stroll in and have that same feel with everybody, and it was quickly apparent that wasn't going to happen.
And I mean, it's one of those ones where if Adam was still kicking around, I'm pretty sure we would be the 10-3 team in the division, and I'm very confident, and I think it would have been better for the rookies that did come in as well. I think they would be having better years because Adams is there as well. I mean, I think it has been that massive, it's been that big losing him and not replacing him was the big thing,
I mean, he was your sole target last year, wasn't he? I mean, I think if you look down at the stats, it was him. And then it was a huge gap, and then it was Lazard or something, and it's like...
I wouldn't be surprised if he had as many targets as the rest of the team combined.
I don't know. The one thing I would say about, Adams not being there is that, and I think people were expecting him to do well, maybe not as well as he's done in the last few weeks, but Christian Watson's been really, really good.
And the last bit, the problem with that, Sam, is it was too little too late for this season,
And as you say, if you'd have kept Adams or a stronger, more experienced wide receiver in that group, because I know you kept Lazard, but he's never been a number one, has he? He's never been that strong. You needed a big, strong number one receiver to bring those guys along, and you didn't kind of have that, did you?
Picked up an AJ Brown, do you know what I mean? What the Eagles have done, if we went and picked up an AJ Brown or someone like that of that ilk, that would be... Then you've got Watson can have the time settle in, coming good now, and all of a sudden you're looking really good for not only the see but a playoff run because Watson's coming through now and you've not missed him.
Yeah.
But we missed him. We did him from week 1, and we got
week 1, and he wasn't there. You didn't have him. You didn't have, and Romeo Dobbs has not really come on either, is he? I mean, he's
been out ever since.
In and out. Yeah.
Do you think that once they'd got rid of Adams, and obviously they didn't bring in another wide receiver, a top wide receiver, that they were potentially looking at the future of, right, this will be potentially Rodgers' last season. We'll see what he can do. The likelihood he's going to be gone. It's like it feels like they were already ready for a rebuild, and they just wanted to see, the likes of Watson, Romeo Dobbs, get a bit more of a feel as to what they would need post Aaron Rodgers.
It's absolute. The Packers, the way the Packers go about it as well, they just don't do agency. It's the only team in the league that's not owned by a gazillionaire, owned by the fans and stuff. So it's a completely different setup to any other NFL team. And this has always been a problem for Rodgers. Rodgers has never got on with the back office very much. Throughout his whole time, not just in the last few years, but throughout his whole time, he just he wants to be more involved in what's going on. And when you've got one owner, if you get in with that one owner, then you're going to get that.
You've got 500,000 owners, haven't you?
So it's more of a board that you're going up against. And, I can testify to that because I've very recently moved jobs from a wee family-run business up to a corporate place, so I can testify.
Makes a massive difference, doesn't it? When you, as you say, if you're in with the owner or you're in with, you can be friendly and you can influence that stuff. But yeah, he's never had that. And kind of nudge like, hey, if you go and spend some money on this guy, I can guarantee that would be good. Whereas he goes to a conglomerate, if you like, or a board of stakeholders and everything else, they're not going to got to be voted on. They're not going to go splash the cash for a big wide receiver that may or may not work out. Some of those big wide receiver moves in the summer, you think AJ Brown one, that's kind of turned out okay for the Eagles, hasn't it? But not all of them have been off the charts. I mean, McLaurin at Washington's not really set the world alight. He's starting to get there now, but he's not really set the world alight. Kirk down in Jacksonville, who started the whole, fun and games merry-go-round, he's not really. I mean, it's Jacksonville, granted. I mean, he wasn't expecting him to set the world alight down there.
Woods in Tennessee as well. He's not done anything.
It's not really. I mean, he's been banged up and whatever else. And Tennessee, I don't know. I mean, Tennessee were never going to throw the ball that much anyway. Not when you've got a running back like Derrick Henry.
They're not a throw first team, are they? So
I mean, you're definitely rolling the dice, but when you've got a quarterback with the skill level of Aaron Rodgers, you don't even. It doesn't need to be a superstar. He's proved that. Adams was plucked from like the 4th or 5th round. Before that, Jordy Nelson was nothing without Rodgers, and then he was nothing after Rodgers. It doesn't need to be exceptional. It just needs to be good, very good.
And there were a couple of some of those senior guys knocking around. Beasley was knocking around. I thought Beasley would have been a great shout for you guys to pick up.
Completely. Yeah, it would have been a very, he's shown, he catches the ball, he runs with the ball, and he's shown it for years and years and years, Even like a Jamison Crowder, if you go and pick up a Jamison Crowder, that went to the Bills, and I mean, I know he got injured and he's done nothing because he's been injured, but, but that kind of help.
Even that having a random wide receiver room would have helped. Having that senior sort of experience been around. Even as you say, if he turns up and gets injured, and then the rookies watch him rehabbing, getting back, and kind of learning all that sort of stuff.
They have sort of had that with Randall Cobb. I mean, he's not exactly a top wide receiver, so
yeah. Cobb's just been Rodgers' safety blanket for so long, but. He only came. Rodgers had to make a point. The only reason Randall Cobb is at the Green Bay Packers right now is because Aaron Rodgers had to make a point to come back. He had to win something. He knew he had to back down, but he knew he needed a win.
Yeah, and he had to get something.
Win was go and get Randall Cobb for like a 6th rounder, and I'll shut up. And and it saved his face.
Yeah.
And I know we picked up Watkins as well. We went and picked up Sammy Watkins, but I mean. Sammy Watkins has been around 3 or 4, 5 teams now, and he'll turn up one game in 10, and maybe
it's not what you need, is it? You don't need that. You don't need that one game in 15 because the season's done by the time he gets around.
We needed someone who's going to catch 6, 7, 8 balls every game. Like Beasley, Crowder, AJ, you're or an absolute superstar if they really want to throw the ball out. And they've never done any of it because they never do. And, you know, Rodgers, you've seen it from week one, you've seen how peed off he was about it, and that's been the story of the season. And
but
now,
as you said, you know, you're stuck with him for a fair chunk of money, even if he doesn't hang up his cleats and everything else, right? So you kind of he's coming back either to warm your bench or to break your bank balance, one or the other, right?
It's going to be swan song next year. I can't see any other way around it now, to be honest with you. I do think that we'll pick up the Jordan Love. I think we'll still see Love this year. I think if the Rams beat us this week or the Dolphins beat us next week, I think we will see Love for the last couple of games. And
you kind of got to, right? You're in the same situation that the Niners were in. You know, everyone was saying they need to kind of play Lance. They've got to see what they've got. And, you know, that didn't go so well. But you're even further along in that one, aren't you?
Yeah, we've got to either pick up his fifth-year option this year or we don't. And it's one of those ones that's, you know, I think we'll end up picking it up because we don't know what we've got yet. And it'll be Rodgers' swan song, but everyone will know this is it last year.
And maybe the stakeholders, you know, maybe the stakeholders will throw a bit of cash at it then, say, no, this is one last year. Let's go and get him OBJ.
The only thing I can see is looking at the QBs that are going to be free agents coming up in this year. Bearing in mind if they don't take his fifth year, there are plenty of free agent QBs who I would say at the moment are established quarterbacks who could do a job if you decide to move away from Rodgers in a part to, you know, potentially looking at bringing in a
stone for another
that isn't Love. So, you know, it may. I think you could end up seeing a similar season next year as you are this year for the Packers, in readiness for, you know, a couple of years' time.
The post-Rodgers, post-Love, whoever's next in type thing.
It's about. I mean, I've got to hope that it's the first option. You know, that we throw the kitchen sink at it. But in reality, Sam, I think it's more likely exactly what you're saying. It's just going to be the same as this year. Next year, Rodgers is going to be less than interested than he is this year, if that's possible. And he's just going to see the year out. We're going to end it exactly the same way we will this year. Maybe, you know, I don't know, 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, you know, something along those. Well, it won't be 9-8 now, but, you know, 7-8. It'll be around that, you know, just a losing mark. That's what we'll end up next year.
I reckon you'll be behind. You know, you'll be behind the Lions if you carry on doing that, though.
Yeah. But I think we'll be bad. I think we'll be behind the Lions. I'm not going to be surprised if the Lions steal that last playoff spot. They're rolling.
Yeah, if they win out.
Well, I think they will. I said that before we came on. So.
Yeah, they're scaring me. And what Chicago's doing as well, you know, it's getting a little bit worrying.
They're starting to turn the corner. They've turned the corner kind of ahead of the way you are, aren't they? They're like a season and a half, 2 seasons ahead. Yeah.
Chicago realised that they just need to let Fields do what he wants on the pitch. And let him get on with it, because he is the way I see it is he's at the moment he's playing like a better Kyler Murray. You know what I mean? Kyler Murray, when he first bombed on the scene, he was amazing, and it's kind of
good touching. Teams didn't know what to do again, and the same. I think Justin Fields is getting to that now. The teams are like, well, you can't just rush him, and you can't just blitz him, because he'll either just take off down the middle and scorch you, or Chicago has started to, as you say, realize that he either runs the ball or he bullets it down the field 50 yards in the air, super arm that he's got. Then maybe you should start to get him some weapons and get him some playbook and get him some things that show that benefit. Interesting to talk about Kyler. We're going to come back to that, but we'll start with you, Johnny. How are you feeling about your Commanders match up this Sunday? It's going to be a bitter one. Hopefully they'll get a result this time.
Oh, hopefully not, because I don't want to be in the playoffs, like I said before.
Not another tie, because that's just going to accuse. I just don't want another tie on the NFC.
We're not. No, I'll take another tie. It was quite an exciting game, but the
rest of the NFC would like just another result, please.
But we're not good enough for the playoffs. So why would they want to win to get in the playoffs? I mean, we're going to get, even if you end up playing the Bucks, we'll probably get beat off them. Panthers.
I can answer that question.
Even the Falcons. But...
Do you remember 2010? You're walking into the playoffs. The Packers went 15-1. and you've been absolutely spanked about, but you've had a wee run at the back end to get to squeeze in the last place. We know they're saying exactly these same words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
don't want to
then
be suddenly you get on a run, get a bit of momentum.
Yeah, but we still have to play the Eagles in a week 18. They might sit down.
They'll be benching. They've done and dusted by then. Yeah, same as us.
They'll play the Colts a week after that. So yeah, even if we beat the Commanders, we're not going to win another game. So I don't think we're good enough. We were better then. You know what I mean?
Negative Nelly, Johnny. Negative Nelly.
He's been that way all the way through, and he's been pleasantly surprised with a lot of the games. And maybe he's thinking if he continues on the negative aspect, it will work, and he will make the playoffs.
It's ingrained in. It's ingrained.
It's
negative.
It's ingrained in every Giants fan, isn't it?
You said how many WhatsApp messages I was getting off you last week, Ken. Shut up. Between you and Doug.
I'm going for a Giants.
Craig shuts up because at least they weren't getting beat last week for a change, so he wasn't too bad. But you lot were, got a bit insufferable for a bit, like, so I might have to block you on Sunday night and put you back on a Tuesday. Unless you lose tonight, obviously, then I'll get you back.
That's not happening. We're going to be, and weirdly enough, we'll be the first team in the NFL to clinch our division, which is weird when you look at. How is that still possible? The Eagles haven't clinched theirs.
It's because the Eagles are in the same as Dallas, isn't it? That's the thing.
Dallas is still there. For them. And the Vikings, while we talk about it, the Vikings are frauds, right? The Vikings are just falling apart. Every time they get put under a bit of pressure, they're just crumbling.
Worst 10-3 team I've ever seen in the NFL, ever.
That's just shocking. Yeah, they're really bad. Did you guys see the Annie Agar sort of week 14? You know that thing she does. Yeah. That was savage. There was some savagery bits. There were some real savage ones in that one, but particularly
she is brilliant for a weekly one. Like she's brilliant.
The fraud at the end, and it was just the Vikings saying they're going, was that us? Brilliant. Some savage ones in there. I think, as you mentioned, Jalen Ramsey was in there as the burnt toast as well. So and she happened to mention your Scottish Hammer, who covered himself in glory this week, didn't he, Johnny?
Oh yeah, that was just mental. Of course, they rub it in the next play. They scored a touchdown. Yeah. What a punt that was, but not the worst punt that the Giants have done against the Eagles. Yes, I know. I remember that one. Yes,
the real whiff. That was the thing is the NFL never let any player forget that one.
I mean, what was it? He drop kicked it, didn't he?
He literally drop kicked
it.
He
dropped it, and then instead he just picking it up. He just kicked it, and then you're not allowed to do that.
Got to say that for saying that was with his weaker foot. It was a pretty good kick for saying.
Pretty decent drop kick. So you got some rugby teams are like, oh hello.
Well, I think that's because he has been good punter this year. It's just you'll be remembered for that one.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? The rest of his year and all the stats and the dropping
just
inside
like
the 10
was remembered for his fumble with a field goal and Mark Sanchez did the butt fumble.
The butt fumble. So, all of those things. Yeah, Roger Craig for the fumble that lost the 3-peat.
Aaron Rodgers for being a prick.
That's true.
Aaron Rodgers for choking constantly. Yeah.
Indeed.
100. Let's say Craig said you can't blame him in Seattle. That was who was it? Nelson? No,
it was Jones. It was Jones. It was Jones. Just catch the ball.
Don't touch all this touch a nerve again. You've got.
That's why you got a receiver in there to catch a thing. But yes, no.
Did anyone enjoyed out of that was the fact he went to the Raiders afterwards. And that's where everyone goes to die. So
everybody goes to the Raiders to retire.
Apart from Adams,
pleased about that, Well, how well is he doing? Is he playing it? Is he making the playoffs this year?
No, but he's still playing well though.
You still take his stats, and Craig, you're still taking
his stats. Still taking him in my fantasy team. Yeah,
absolutely.
He's still taking stats, but he's not winning anything there either. It was, it's. I get it. He's going to play with his pal, but if you're going to leave and you've got that kind of stature, do you not go to a real top team?
You not go to somebody who's contending.
I mean, he could have.
But then obviously people thought that Denver were going to be a top team this year, and look at them. So
ain't that the truth? Again, that goes back to the death. The death of the era, the end of the era. Russell Wilson.
He's right on the tail end. I think he's that one. He's that tail end of that sort of era. Of once he's gone, then it is the new era of Mahomes and Herbert and all of that lot. So.
Allen and
absolutely.
Well,
it's interesting.
But obviously, Yeah, the young quarterbacks are now are scary.
Really
good.
The stuff that did you see the Mahomes thing where he was and then just kind of lobbed it sidearm,
lobbed it off, didn't it?
Well, that was a crazy. Yeah. It's like almost kind of round them. It was just like,
it was just like, I just got to spin it. It was like throw it that way, and McKinnon just took it off down the field.
The thing with Mahomes is he just he plays the NFL like he's on like just playground football to him.
Yeah, he's playing Madden on easy or something. Isn't
he just plays Madden. Yeah. He'll just try different things, and for some reason, they always come off. And that just shows you the quality of Mahomes and why he is, I would say, the best quarterback in the league right now, and has been for last year or so.
Definitely.
For me, the one thing you kind of, Mahomes is a lot more kind of old style than a lot of the rest of them. You know, like Joe Burrow as well. You know, they kind of would rather pass it than run it. Can take off if they need to, but would rather be
in last resort, isn't it? It's last resort for them.
It's kind of the game is kind of changing in that sense, you know, where it's a lot more getting more and more like college football, you know, where the quarterback runs away, runs about with it, and they're drawing up many genuine quarterback run plays and stuff, you know, and it's kind of, it's good to have the likes of Mahomes there and Burrow there, you know, that are kind of still in there with the old guard type thing, you know, because that's what I remember and like the most, you know.
Yeah. There's a mixture of those two, isn't there? As you say, they've got a little bit of the old school, a little bit of the pocket. You've got to stay there and throw it and hang around.
Yeah, because Burrow's actually sneakily quick. He can't
when he gets out. Yeah.
To be fair, so
doesn't look very good.
Yeah, Mahomes too. I mean,
Mahomes has got I think Mahomes could be. He could play the exact same way that Josh Allen plays.
Yeah,
he did a couple of years ago for a bit, did he not? He ran a lot.
He can run a lot, but I think his throwing ability is just second to none.
I think what happened with him, I think Andy Reid suddenly realised, you know, that first couple of years, yes, he's got the legs, he's got the baseball sort of, training, because he could have gone either way, couldn't he? So, you know, he's got all that. So he uses his legs, he uses the athleticism. And then he started to realise, you know, the sidearm throws and the round the back throws and the arm motion and the stuff that he's got. It's like, hang on a minute, why don't we start to really utilise the passing range that he has? And, you know, because he'd got that running, scrambling quarterback sort of, oh God, where's he going to go sort of thing for the defenses. And then suddenly he comes in and starts doing sidearm, no-look passes, and everyone's like, oh God, what next?
Is it not a 10-year contract he got? So obviously he wanted to keep it for 10 years. He wanted, so
just keep adding a little bit.
It's a lot less chance to get hurt as well. You know, I know sitting in the pocket, you can get crunched. But, you know, there's a lot less chance of you getting hurt than taking off.
At least, as you say, pocket hits, you're going to be, you know, they're generally coming like this, and you've got your full pads on. If you're out running, you're always up to somebody taking your knee out, and you know, as we saw Kyler Murray last week, non-contact. That was horrible. That was horrible to see from, you know, I know it's Cardinals and whatever else and the interdivisional rivalry, but what you don't want to see is an athlete like him who relies so much on that physical side of things, just going like that. And everybody knew as soon as he went, it was like, that's a bad one. Nobody was near him, put his leg down. Yeah, it was just like, you know, when that happens, it's like, oof, that's horrible. It's a bit of a shame for the Cardinals, and you know, by the sounds of it.
Talking of bad injuries, Debo's managed to escape one, hasn't he?
Oh, wow!
That looked nasty.
He's going to be back. He'll be
3
back.
weeks, is it?
3-4 weeks. He'll be back before
he's back
the playoffs.
I don't think he'll play.
He won't. No, he won't.
He might play maybe week 17 or week 18 in terms of
give him a few snaps, just
to kind of get that sort of essentially like a warm up practice, like the preseason. But he's not playing fully until the playoffs. But if you can bring in a fully fit Deebo Samuel when you come into the playoffs,
so get to the playoffs, because you know, if we win today, we clinch the division. Then the issue is, do we push to try and take the second seed off of the Vikings? Because the Vikings are in a bit of free fall. If we win out,
the way the Vikings are going, you might not have to push.
Exactly. And then we get home field advantage, which, you know, means that we probably avoid, as you've said all along, Craig, avoid the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Which has got to be worth maybe thinking about. But no, as you say, Sam, I don't know what gods were smiling on us.
Anything. I mean, it was
just a couple of. Basically what they're saying is he's twisted an ankle and his knee got a bit tweaked, and it's like
it looked, especially from his reaction, it looked season ending.
When they slowed it down and the guy rolled up on it. And I was first of all, I was looking at it going, is it his right foot or his left foot? Because his right foot, the guy landed on, and I thought, oh, that's a Jimmy broken foot injury. He's managed to avoid that, and then you saw, as you say, the left foot got stuck, and then the guy rolled up on it, and you're like, how he's come out of just that.
And then obviously the motion in which it took him, it looked like his knee had something had gone as well.
Yeah, because then he got hit again and went back, and it was like, I mean, you could understand why he just went, I'll have the ball, because, it's not, and that's also another indication. Most players, if they go down, they'll still won't kind of want to, he just went down and threw the ball away, the pain and everything else. So you just automatically thought, well, that's season ending, that's a bad one. And, then it was like, oh, it's not the knee, it's just the ankle. And then you're thinking, oh, high ankle sprain, 6 to 8 weeks. And now it's like, oh, a little bit of a tweak on the knee and a tweak on the ankle. You're thinking, it's a guy made of, what's he made of? I know he's built like a tank, but obviously he's pretty elastic as well.
And especially when you think about, the Niners' injury records of late, they've generally been cursed with injuries. I think to escape that is probably every single Niners fan praying to high heaven that was not
absolutely. A bad one. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of people became sort of very devout Catholics just towards that, just as he went down, and all the prayers that went up from the Levi Stadium, I should think. But and it'll be interesting. Would it have been worse? Is it just throwing a cat amongst the pigeons? Would it have been worse if he was playing at MetLife, or if he was playing in a dome with turf?
Well, I hear that MetLife are changing their pitch next year.
Thank God.
I thought I read somewhere that the NFL are going to look at banning
standardizing
turf completely.
I can't see how they're going to ban it, to be honest, because there's going to be places like Arizona and domes and stuff where they kind of. I mean, I know we do it over here.
You can roll it in and out, though, Gary, in this day and age,
But at least if they standardize the turf, if you're going to have a turf pitch, then at least have the same one.
What they want to do is they want to get rid of turf and people to have either artificial grass or to have actual grass.
Actual rolling grass.
So they want to remove the turf because it's the turf that's causing the injuries. The artificial grass isn't as bad and it doesn't churn up the way that grass does. So it is beneficial for, where you've got places like, I don't know, the Bills where you tend to get a lot of bad weather or, places like that. The artificial grass is a lot better. Whereas for I think you get places, I mean, even somewhere like Seattle where you get a lot of rain, probably having a grass pitch in Seattle would just be a complete bog.
It would just be a mud bath, wouldn't it be a bog? I mean, Washington is the same. And
there is,
but those old games are good to watch. So
I love watching those rain games.
You couldn't tell who was.
But that's
you couldn't tell who had the
Brown against Brown. Brown against
Brown. They want to be able to have. They don't want to limit, grounds from not using artificial turf in terms of because of the they can't always.
It's not always be football stadiums as well, isn't it? Some of them have that because
for me, that's a bum excuse because Manchester ain't exactly sunny 12 months of the year. Do you know what I mean? But Manchester United's pitch looks absolutely stunning from the start of the season to the end of the season. So that's
you said about every Premier League team really. Newcastle the same. None of those.
Yeah,
there's no guarantee you'll get decent weather. But as you say, Premier League pitches all look absolutely spot on.
Yeah, but look at the mess at Wembley. Look at the mess at Wembley after the NFL played there.
Yeah,
the pitch was buggered like.
But it's fixed for the next week though. That's the thing, and it's if
you've got fixed for the England game, was it? So
no, it wasn't. But that was only 5 days later. That was not a full. They didn't give it a full week.
I do think
that's a week. 5 days.
If you look at the majority of especially the more high profile injuries, the ACLs, the MCLs, a lot of the maybe not the high ankle sprains, but those big injuries that people are getting, the majority of them are on turf, and the players don't want to play on turf.
And that's the thing. I think the players are talking about it now, aren't they? It's not just anybody else. It's the players who are like going, guys, hang on, we don't want to do this. Is our livelihood as well. So
and a lot of them. I mean, I think this year, maybe more than probably a lot of years, we're seeing a lot more high profile injuries in terms of your star players going out injured, which is and again, a lot of them are on turf. So that's got to say something about the fact that the turf pitches are causing more injuries than they are,
just not kept up, I suppose, with the speed, right? Because as you say, maybe before it would have been the big guys in the trenches that were getting the twists, and those guys don't tend to get a lot of the big news and don't get, it's not often, maybe the left tackle, but not really, your right guard or anything. I've noticed it's like just plug another guy in, don't really notice it. But as you say, the game has got so much faster, as you just mentioned, the change in quarterbacks, getting out there, scrambling around, running around, doing a lot more of that. So your franchise stars and the face of your franchise is now the guy who's dealing with a lot of these now. And that may be why suddenly they're like, hang on, we've just given this guy, Mahomes, however many million it was for 10 years. He's probably kicking himself and looking at some of the contracts that have just suddenly been handed out to others, and he could probably have got more money if he'd have hung around. But anyway, it's interesting to see that there is that talk towards hopefully either a standardization or a removal of it. But money's going to talk in the end, isn't it? In the NFL, it always does.
But at the end of the day,
lots of these stadiums are multifunctional, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what's more important, keeping you £250 million QB from getting a potentially season-ending injury or having grass? Realistically, you're going to save more money just having the grass.
Having the grass, it costs you a couple of million or something, doesn't it? Apparently.
The thing is, if that was the case, they would all have grass right now, so
it's got to be a reason. Yeah, they could say that, and you go, if it's just for 17, or well, let's be honest, it's 8 games a season, 8 weeks in a year. Those other 44 weeks, they could be selling out that as a stadium for music and whatever else. They don't. It's not just the football that brings the money into these places. So,
I mean, look, you've got all these new stadiums being built anyway, haven't you? I mean, the Bills are building a brand new stadium. The Titans are building a brand new stadium. They could quite easily have a very similar system to what they have at the Tottenham Hotspur.
Tottenham's got to be the kind of the blueprint for it. I mean, that's a purpose-built NFL stadium that just so happens to have a football team in it as well.
Yeah,
and it's got a football pitch underneath it that they flip it round, but that's literally, I mean, that it's as simple as that. Well, not as simple as that, but you can do that in this day and age. It's I just can't. I'm with you, Sam, in terms of keep your players. You're paying these players a lot of money. Give them the best chance to stay as fit as they possibly can. And I can't get my head around why they're not doing it. It can only be money.
Yeah, like
I think somebody said. I think they asked. It was Jed York or one of the GMs who have grass, and it's like it's a $2 million hit on your bottom line compared to having turf. And you think, in the grand scheme of things, $2 million a year.
You could always look. I mean, you could always look at, like we say, the artificial grass, which is the best of both worlds. It's a lot safer for the players, but it's a lot
hardier and it's a lot more.
Yeah, there's less sort of churn up that you need to have to worry about. Obviously, with everything, there is going to be a cost, and it's potential that this artificial grass maybe costs more. That's maybe why it's not as widely used. But I just think for the sake of, your star players, if you start seeing players try and avoid playing for franchises because the fact they have artificial grass,
that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Ooh, could you imagine that in the draft? You get drafted first, and you go, I don't want to play there because you've got a turf pitch. I'd rather go somewhere else that's got grass. Ooh,
yeah,
that would put the cat amongst the pigeons, wouldn't it?
I think it's a thing that needs to happen. I think because it's maybe a little bit of these these billionaire owners have all got the biggest egos in the world, and it might be one of those. No, you're not telling me what to do. Situations,
I need that sort of shock horror, it
doesn't
matter. You can draft me as much as you like. I'm going to play for the Giants type thing.
Yeah,
or whoever it was.
Well, that good, yeah.
MetLife Stadium have just announced that they're going to get moved to artificial grass, haven't they?
Yeah, I think it's that one. Yeah, it was announced last week. I think it was. So.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised because that's been seeing a lot more people move that way because
MetLife's been particularly bad. It seems, I don't know if it is. It just seems
been a nightmare, that stadium.
It has been. No.
There's been a lot of bad injuries, twisted knees, ankles. That's what happened to Barkley. I think was it when Barkley got injured. Like 4 games in a row.
OBJ went there.
4 games.
I think Bosa.
The Jets and the Giants, the players got injured.
Bosa got injured, done his knee there.
OBJ did his most recent knee at SoFi, which is turf.
Yeah.
Stafford's injury is completely irrelevant, but obviously Cooper Kupp did his injury at SoFi. So, I imagine if you went through all the injury, all the high profile injuries, and you look at more the ones that are like maybe like high ankle sprains and ACLs, MCLs, those sorts of twisted injuries.
Yeah,
I reckon
it's torsion injuries, isn't it?
See what the correlation between those injuries and turf was. It wouldn't surprise me if majority of them were from turf.
Was it not J.K. Dobbins got injured at MetLife when he did his knee in? Was that a preseason game? I'm pretty sure that was one of the games when he was on the sideline and his knee just went because of the turf.
It's an absolute no-brainer at Turf's Worth. I mean, you can tell just by playing amateur five-a-side football on it. It's like playing on concrete
sometimes, or sticky concrete sometimes is the way.
And it's that when you just go and turn, and it's so easy just to go over on the ankle to twist the knee. And when you're talking about players of that fitness and that level going at it as hard as they do, it's inevitable that the turf is going to cause injuries just with ankles getting stuck, knees going. It's going to. I don't get why they play on it. I really don't. Yeah. And if you look at football, I mean, the players absolutely point blank refuse in soccer. Absolutely point blank refuse to play on it. They will not play on it, so it's not played on.
There's very few stadiums around Europe. I mean, I know Europe doesn't maybe always have the same weather conditions that some of areas of America get. But you look at I think was it Arsenal played some team in the Europa League, and they were on an artificial pitch.
Some Norwegian team or something.
Yeah.
Or some way in the Far East or something.
There's Scottish teams that use it. There are teams in the Scottish lower divisions that use the artificial turf, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think the Premier League you have to have turf.
What? No, Livingston. What do they play?
Yeah, Livingston have
Livingston, are they not but nobody likes playing in it. And it is an advantage to them because they're used to playing it, but nobody likes
It's the same in the rugby. It's the same. Saracens, they've got an artificial pitch at Saracens, and you can see that it does benefit the Saris players. I mean, all the players who come and play at Saracens, they don't mind the pitch. It's one of those ones, you're always guaranteed your footing. It's not like a rugby pitch that's going to churn up, but it doesn't cause, you don't seem to see the equivalent injury rate, even though, Saracens are playing on that a lot more than NFL teams are, and you don't get as many ACLs and then, sprains and pulls and whatever else. And it buffs, one of the problems that the rugby players come off saying is it kind of buffs the skin. It doesn't, old fashioned. I don't know if you guys all remember the old sand artificial things.
I remember gravel.
I remember gravel, and you just literally get sliding tackle and come up with no leg skin, and basically, nice rashes. So you don't get, still got scars.
Still red today.
But so the players there say that basically they have got no arm hair because it just buffs all the arm hair off. It almost polishes the skin.
Like you say, it's the difference is the speed in which they play. You look at fair enough. Rugby union is. There is an element of quickness to it, but it's a lot more physical and in terms of sort of not slow movement, but sort of that slow progression. Whereas the NFL, it's quick turns, it's slams and things like that, isn't it? That's what hits them. I mean, you look at OBJ's injury; it was purely because he planted his foot wrong and his knee jarred, and it obviously tore his ACL. So
it's the same. And Kyler Murray's is exactly that. He put his foot down to cut and. It didn't give within an athlete. It was stuck, as they said. It was almost sticky concrete. So he put his foot down and it stuck, and it didn't turn the way he wanted it to. So it basically the foot was planted, not moving, and then he tried to move the knee, and unfortunately,
I think that's
not designed to go that way.
That's what's happening. Is if whereas in something like grass, or maybe I don't know much about the artificial grass, but if you in grass, your foot, because it's obviously mud underneath, it moves. It has that movement within it to be able to give, and that's where if you don't
you don't jar it like that.
But you're not going to have that instant resistance when you plant your foot, whereas you do with turf, and I think that's the biggest problem that it's occurring.
Playing on the grass and the frost isn't much fun either.
Yeah, playing on frozen concrete pitches in
middle of
Scotland.
January in Scotland is not fun playing on grass.
No, I grew up doing that. I'm not. Thank you very much.
In the 70s, that was not fun.
Plenty of these stadiums have underfloor heating in the NFL. I would assume that they do.
I would assume. If they're gonna, you'd think so. They're probably, if they're not, they've got sun lamps and whatever else, haven't they? They'd be fine. I don't think frost. Well, I mean, you look at it. They managed to play in the snow in 8-10 foot snow in in Buffalo and places like that. So they can't imagine that they don't have undersoil heating or ability to heat the ground. So.
No, they definitely will. It's crazy.
So, gentlemen. Is your thoughts starting to turn towards the draft yet? Are you already looking, or are you kind of still all in? Because I've already started to kind of eye up the Heisman winners and seeing who's. I mean, for the Niners, we're not drafting until day 3, I think, or something like that. But it's week 15. I'm already thinking the draft, who's doing what, where's what. I mean, from the Rams' perspective, you're in the same position, right? You're just wondering how much of a good pick the Lions are going to get from you.
Yeah, well, I'm eyeing up what O-liners are going to be available in the second day.
If any second or third day, who's left?
Yeah, I think that's.
And you got to think the Seahawks are sitting pretty right now. They have absolutely fleeced the Denver Broncos. They're going to get a top 10 pick, probably a third, fourth pick at the way these are going, maybe third pick.
I mean,
they have their own pick.
They could be having it. I think when I first sort of looked at it, that I think you're looking at probably the third, fourth, fifth pick, and then probably around the 15th pick, 16th pick.
Yeah.
To have those 2 picks in the first round, I mean, even if they don't want that top 3 pick, they could easily trade down.
They are trading. I can see them trading down and absolutely making a killing in this year's draft, because they might just say to Geno, "Hey, you've done all right this year. Have a couple of years. We're going to go out and get the future. Trade out from the third pick and get late first. As you say, they've got their own late first, so they could trade out of third, go back to 10th, 11th, still get the defensive player that they want, because there's a fair few defensive ends coming through the draft. There's about 4 or 5 of them, so they'll get one of them.
The Seahawks need an edge rusher, and I think they need a couple of tackles. But they need to solidify that D line up, because it's been their Achilles heel in terms of their defense all year. Tariq Woolen's been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, Diggs is still Diggs.
Yeah, still Diggs. He's just suffered because, as you say, everyone's just been able to just run straight up the guts against the Seahawks, which is a problem. Any team needs to go and solidify that. They've had an amazing draft this year, having 6 starters. So they already know that the rebuild is already full on the way. So they are, I think, sitting pretty. As you say, the Lions have got a pretty decent pick from you guys. They're definitely going to be quarterback, or are they? I mean, I thought at the beginning, are they? I thought Goff was just a placeholder, but now,
no,
I think
they need to shore up the defense as well. That's the thing. So.
Yeah.
I think if Goff takes a pay cut, they'll keep him.
So, I mean, if he wins another couple of games and puts them in the hunt for a playoff, maybe even getting a playoff place, I think Goff's probably written his check for next year at least.
I mean, if you look, knowing Goff from having years of seeing him play, no, you don't offer him.
You can't trust it, right?
He's not trustworthy. He's got good players around him at the moment. He had good players around him when he was at the Rams. He just isn't. He's not a top quarterback, and I think. If anything, I think I still think they're going to go for a quarterback. They'll probably get, maybe not, they're obviously probably not going to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Youngs at this point. I could see them going for someone like a Will Levis and, having
Caleb Williams
for another year and just.
You think Caleb Williams will go before him?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Has Caden actually said he's going to join? I thought he had another year. He
might not be eligible. I'm not sure.
I think he's 2024. I think he's still got another year, because that's what I think. Who was talking to about the Rams potentially looking at, if Stafford retires, sticking with someone like Baker. If you end up not doing so well for another year, you've got the 2024.
You've got the 24. Yeah, you're tanking for the following year.
But that was.
And where are you guys sitting for your draft, Craig? Seeing as you're fun and games. What do you think your needs are?
I think they're exactly the same as the Seahawks, to be honest with you. Our D-line's been atrocious this year. It's so easy to run through us. There was a touchdown scored on us in, I think it was a Philadelphia game at the end of the second quarter. And then at the start of the second quarter, and it was literally, there was no point in them even being there. They could have just stood up and went for a wee coffee for all that they've done. You know, it's we really need to show that up. We cannot continue to get run on the way we are run on. And it's been a theme for a long, long time. You know, it's just kind of the Packers get run on and that's the way it is. But we need to show that up. For me, that's where we really need to look.
At least we know what the Rams are going to do on Tuesday night. You just run that ball.
Well, just find a running back and give it to them, yeah. And Johnny, how you thinking?
Bring someone in off the crowd and they'll be able to run through the Packers line at the moment, you know.
Sam, get your Primark kit out and go out there.
Yeah, I'm going to head up.
We need to shore up the D-line.
Where are you looking for strengthening this year, Johnny, in the draft? Are you?
Well, I don't know. Obviously, we're going to be too high up the draft to get a quarterback, so we're probably going to have to stick with Jones. But they'll probably franchise tag Barkley, but they'll get Jones like in a tag, some sort of tag. What is it called? Not a franchise tag, but another one.
Deal.
Yeah, so they'll let him out, but if they don't match him, then they'll get him back. And well, they need a bloody receiver again. I mean,
surely wide receivers is the
got to be wide receiver.
What's wrong with Kenny Golladay, like?
Well,
how long have you got? Hang on, no, we've only got 8 minutes. We've only got 8 minutes left, Craig.
We'll even pay his wages, so you can have him. You brought him up. I'm just sending him to you. We'll pay his wages. Go for it. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. I'll personally pay his wages.
You can give him a $5 bonus if he catches the ball.
You know you're safe on that.
No, because obviously you've got. Yeah, they did obviously when Slayton's your number one receiver and he wasn't even playing last year. Yeah, again, he has some nice catches, and Hodgins has been a nice pickup due to the end of the season. But
losing
you need a good receiver. Yeah,
when you have Darius Slayton as your number one wide receiver, you know you've got issues.
That is a problem, isn't it?
But he has had some nice catches. You know what I mean? He's actually catchable this year.
He's played well,
which is better than Galladay. But
he's played well.
Yeah,
but he's not.
I'm better than Galladay
because because if we can keep Barkley in our franchise tag and we've got Bellinger, if you get him fit he's a good little tight end. You know what I mean? You just need a receiver because the offensive line will get there.
Yeah.
Maybe get some in free agency or maybe a second or third round. Defensive line's actually not too bad. You know what I mean? You need some in the backup, but we have lost we need depth and safety, cornerback. Because when
you get to that stage,
not bad. But when you miss them, then losing Adoree Jackson and a punt return wasn't the best thing. You know what I mean? And that's interesting
when you know your team's getting close, isn't it? That's the bit when you know you kind of think, well, your first 12 or whatever else, they're pretty good.
But he's scheming it well for Jones, so
he needs someone to throw to. That's all he needs now. He needs. I know that it's Danny Dimes, but he needs people. He needs weapons to throw to. You can't expect, Saquon to be able to just pound
carry
the ball
team every time. It's not going to work.
No.
It's going to break him eventually, as you say. And the blueprint, if you like, is sitting in San Francisco. It's not got a great quarterback. It's not got somebody who can bomb it down the field. I know they twisted it for Trey Lance, but as you say, fill the offense with playmakers. You got Saquon. You got Wan'Dale Robinson coming back. You say your tight end's looking all right. You just need
on the funny side, though, obviously. But obviously, we got rid of Tony, who had 2 games for Kansas City, and he's been out injured ever since. So at least he's gone back to his giant stage of not playing football. But
I did thought that was funny. You trade 8 games, caught a couple of passes, and then it's like, he's injured. There you go. Okay, good. Yeah.
He's not played the game since. But you get a decent receiver. Again, you'll pick up one or two that won the first round, second round. Just give them somebody to throw the ball to.
You've still got to remember, you have got Wan'Dale Robinson there. You have got Wan'Dale. I mean, no, he's
he'd be the slot receiver.
Now, but he looked good when he came in.
He does, yeah. But he'll get him in the slot. You need a couple of boys on the outside because Jones can throw the ball. You just need somebody that can get up and catch it.
Somebody to
I know he's had a better year.
And there are a couple
he has got away with a couple of interceptions. So.
But again, that goes down to there's been some bad defenses and some bad games. So. And there's a couple of good receivers coming through college as well. If you look not just at the top end, obviously, Ohio State have outstanding wide receivers that are going to go very, very early. But if you start to delve into it, there's some really good big receivers as well, which is potentially what you need on the outside. You need some of those bigger guys who'll go out and get them.
You need a big person. You need a big wide receiver who can go out and win the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
We need another Plaxico Burris. That's what we need. Without him shooting himself in the leg.
Anyway, that's actually a good thought. Next week, not next week. I'm going to shoot you in the leg. I was just going to say next week. Maybe I just maybe thinking of comeback player of the year and things like that. Because obviously, Robinson's got to be quite high up there after his early season fun and games. So it's hard to get to that, isn't it?
Honestly, this is where you lose me. How can a comeback player? How can you give comeback player of the year to a guy who's never played a game before? Surely to come back, you have to be here in the first place.
Yeah, and I think I read about that.
This is what Craig did because Craig didn't like the fact that Burrow got it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but he did start the year.
He did start though, didn't he? And then he busted
it. He came back. He played 2 games or a game and a half, and I think he got injured in the second game, and then then the next year he goes, fair enough, a great year. It's not a comeback. You were never here in the first place.
That's what. So what you're saying is Trey Lance is a shoe-in next year for a comeback player of the year.
If Trey Lance wins comeback player of the year, I officially give up.
I don't think Robinson can get it this year because he is a rookie, as you say.
No, he can't. But I have said that he can't get it because he didn't play last year, but.
I think Gino was one of the favourites, wasn't he?
I think Gino's able to get it, but
which is weird because what's he coming back from? Just being shit.
Yeah, he's coming back from being rubbish all his career.
It's a bit of a weird comeback, isn't it? What were you saying there, Johnny? Sorry, you.
Well, again, McCaffrey could get it because he did. He's been back injured, but he gets injured that often. He could probably win it every second year. But
that would be my pick.
Well, Gino's favourite, but. He could potentially, if he collapses at the end of the year, he's not going to win it.
No.
If the Seahawks just collapse, then it's a tough one.
But then, Derek
Henry. We should maybe think about that next week.
Time injured. So, but yeah, well, that would be a good thing to look at next week because we'll be coming up to it, won't we?
Coming up to those sort of decision makings: defensive player of the year, rookie of the year, comeback player of the year. So yeah. Let's put a pin in that. We'll start talking about that next week. It's not quite the end of the year, is it?
It's not far off next year, right?
Not far off, is it? Yeah, not far off.
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
go for that.
Loving it. Another hour flown by. Appreciate you guys jumping on board. It's been good fun. I'm going to go get my nanny nap in for an hour or two before I get back up again. It's been a long day already, and it's like it's only 10 o'clock. I've got to be up at 1 a.m. Oh. So enjoy your weekends, gents.
It's a bogey team, Seattle.
It's a bogey team, but you've got to get up for Thursday night. Your chance of winning the division in Lumens Field, a place that's been not good for us for years. Although the spectrum.
Look at the bright side. Seattle lost to Carolina last week. So,
I know they are trending in the right way for us to go out there and smash them. Yeah, and that's all we're going to do. I think we're just going to go out there and just run over them. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, Deontay Foreman.
You mean Sam Darnold's a changed man? Sam Darnold's got a beard.
Oh yes,
man.
That's what it is. Since you get a beard, it just changes, doesn't it?
Beard.
He's copying your beard, Sam. That's all it is.
He is.
He wants you to
So Baker turns up with a big beard on Sunday night. Look out, Green Bay.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, appreciate your time. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Have a great week. We'll speak soon.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm pressing the wrong button.